indictment in any way would have been affected significantly by the evidence that the Prime Minister is referring to. He has not specifically made the evidence public, so we don't know what he's talking about. But with the sophisticated methods that are existing today for surveillance, where a lot of the surveillance is satellite oriented, there is no need for the United States to be violating Jamaican law by getting an illegal wiretap. Now, in the United States, where the wiretaps were approved, they're approved under the Omnibus Crime Control Act, where there is a very long procedure involving both the police departments and a hearing before a federal magistrate or judge or a state magistrate or judge, in which a very complicated set of proofs have to be established, much more onerous than the prima facie hearing that occurs or obtains in Jamaica. Right. So the fact of the matter is that there is no need for the United States, quite frankly, to be violating laws relating to informants.
So you don't think the United States violated the wiretap?
That's my professional opinion. I gravely doubt it.
So you think the Prime Minister would have been making up, fabricating his story here?
Again,
No.
I would suggest that you not put words in my mouth.
No, I'm asking.
But I would say, and I have respect for the Prime Minister, he's in a difficult situation. He's not a lawyer. And I think that it would have been happier if he had an Attorney General who was in command of the situation, who could have made that speech for him and made the type of references which would not have exposed him to criticism or perhaps in some situations to ridicule. It would have been better.
Right.
I don't think that the Prime Minister ought to have made a speech about United States evidence when trying to justify what obviously is a policy decision by the government of Jamaica not to produce Mr. Coke.
We've been speaking with Professor of Law here at the University of Miami School of Law, Professor David Rowe, a Jamaican-born attorney who has been speaking very much on this issue of the extradition of Christopher Dudus Coke and the request by the United States government. When we come back, more discussions right here on Direct. We're wanting to know the possibility of a full-scale diplomatic row between Kingston and Washington over the issue. Stay with us. Welcome back to Direct as we continue our discussion with Professor of Law here at the University of Miami School of Law, Professor David Rowe. This School of Law, as I said, has been very famous for the Caribbean Law Program, which has been looking at many of the geopolitical issues surrounding Caribbean and United States relations. We continue our talk with him right here on Direct about this controversy over the extradition request for Christopher Dudus Coke.
The Prime Minister on March 2, he said the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, speaking of Dorothy Lightburn, isn't a lubricated conduit for essentially passing through, to be essentially a funnel for extradition requests. She has to first consider them and see if, for example, they have broken the law or violated the law in any way. What do you say about that? What about the role of the minister? Doesn't the minister have a role in this?
Yes, the minister has a role, but the minister's role must be consistent with the rule of law, and the minister's role must be consistent with the jurisprudence of extradition. The following questions I think need to be asked. Why is this extradition being treated any differently from the 40 or so previous extraditions? Why was this individual awarded a contract after he was indicted by a federal grand jury? You read the report. Did this individual receive a large financial contract after the grand jury indicted him? Has that contract been the basis of a financial contribution to any individual in the current government? What is his relationship with senators and members of parliament in the current government? Has there been any financial commitment, any financial fee, any financial bribe, any financial payment made to any sitting member of the government that's associated with this post-indictment contract? It's an extremely peculiar situation where an individual is under indictment for the sale of guns, the sale of cocaine to the United States, which they say is used for the sale of crack to children in New York schools. And the way the government of Jamaica addresses that type of individual is to give him a huge contract. Now, there's something wrong there, and that's why I think the report refers to the corruption angle. Who is paying who for what?
That's, of course, the narcotics control strategy report from the
State Department and the
Yes.
Justice Department.
Right.
And the real question is, who is paying what? Who is paying who for what? And
yes.
if this man is in fact paying government ministers and government senators from a contract that he received after the indictment, then there's a significant obstruction of justice issue arising.
Do you think there is any evidence on which to ask these questions, or you think that they need to be asked on the basis of a possibility?
Well, I wish that the Jamaican press were asking questions after he received the contract. But why the Jamaican press was so silent when an indicted individual received a huge financial contract is odd. I would hope that the contractor general would be asking those questions. I would hope that the supposedly independent press in Jamaica is asking those questions. It certainly is an issue for me.
Yes.
Did this individual make huge financial contributions to the party at election time? What is his financial role with the party? And is his financial role related to narcotics? Is his financial role related to the sale of guns? Is his financial role related to individuals who seem to be extremely politically committed to his cause?
Yes.
Those are the kinds of questions that I think that need to be asked.
Let me come back to the role of the minister, though. Section 8, paragraph 3 of the Extradition Act is cited by some attorneys in Jamaica to substantiate the claim that the minister and the attorney general has a pretty substantive role in this. The section says that on receipt of such a request, the minister may issue an authority to proceed unless it appears to him or her that an order for the extradition of the person concerned could not lawfully be made. Operative word could not lawfully be made. Would Dorothy Lightburn, and by extension the Prime Minister, have a bone of argument and a strong argument to say, well, the US violated the wiretap law and hence we could not proceed?
Well, it appears to me that they're scrambling for an attempt or a technicality not to extradite Dudus, and that they'll use any excuse that they can come up with not to take political action.
But isn't this in the law, though, in the extradition treaty? In the extradition treaty to say that the minister has this role to determine whether the evidence was lawfully made, lawfully obtained?
Well, again, it is the method of how the extradition treaty is interpreted is affected by the custom, by the diplomatic connection between the parties, how the machinery of extradition has operated in the past. Now, obviously, if there is a purpose to be served for the minister to use a section and to create a basis based on a section, because there is a intention to either frustrate the treaty, to violate the treaty, or not to produce the individual pursuant to the treaty. If there is and this is what the report is talking about, if the government lacks the political will to produce the individual because he is a favorite of theirs, then we're abandoning the rule of law in Jamaica and we're becoming a narcotics